Well, we always hear the phrase, it's a 12:01 league, right, Jeremy? A minute after midnight is when deals get done, and we have to figure out when the midnight is and then wait the extra minute. When is 12:01 for the Steelers on the Rodgers matter? Best you can tell.
That's a good question. I think, look, probably the draft. Maybe they're even willing to wait up until the draft. I think regardless, the Steelers are going to look into their draft options and take a hard evaluation of the quarterbacks. If not this year, then next year. They don't have a second-round pick now because of the DK Metcalf deal. So if they don't get Rodgers or they just get impatient, do they take one in the first or third rounds would probably be the conversation. They were in Alabama with Jalen Milroe, had dinner with him. I wouldn't understate that because Pittsburgh actually has a penchant for looking into and drafting guys they have dinner with. Like it's sort of a tell for them sometimes. So if you're willing to draft a guy like Milroe who needs development and needs to be behind the scenes, but if you can build an offense around him after he waits for 2 years, you could really have something if he develops as a passer, which is a big question now league-wide, whether he can do that. But the upside is really intriguing. So, they're going to look at those options hard. I expect in one of the next 2 years, they go aggressively in the draft for a passer. Like they acknowledge they have to do that. But in the meantime, they are in a position to wait on Rodgers for at least a little while because, they didn't work out with Justin Fields. They gave him a competitive offer from what I understand. It didn't work out. He went to the Jets. So right now, Russell Wilson would probably be their backup option, but I just don't sense a lot of momentum right there between Wilson and the Steelers reuniting. They have Mason Rudolph on the roster. I'm told they do, at least in a pinch, feel comfortable with him starting games. So they have somebody they're familiar with who's been in the building that they've scouted for years. Like if he had to play some games in 2025, they feel like that wouldn't be the worst thing. So because of that, they are set up to wait, but I can't imagine they're willing to wait, 3 or 4 months. So I think they're hoping, like everybody else, that there's a resolution at some point in the next days and weeks.
All right. So in the meantime, grind tape on the rest of the quarterback class, not named Ward or Shador. If Shador's there 21st overall at some point, and we'll get to that in a second as a possibility, maybe you hit that, or Dart, or Shuck if you like him a lot, where you draft him in the first round knowing you don't have a 2 and he might not be there at 3 unless Jalen Milroe's a guy that they've identified, and which leads me to the follow-up here. Who in the history of the Steelers dinner list did they draft? You got a list of me for that in your mental Rolodex here, Jeremy? Who is it?
I'm trying to think of like T.J. Watt, Artie Burns, a cornerback who's still in the league but didn't quite pan out as a first-round pick. But a lot of their first-round picks they did have dinner with, if I recall. I used to cover the team as a beat guy like 2016 to 19, and every year they had dinner with the guy. So They do have a history of that, for sure.
So you're calling restaurants and towns and college towns asking, is there a table for Rooney and Tomlin tonight? And like,
Seriously.
You can draw some lines. I love that. Catch the Rich Eisen Show live weekdays from 12 to 3 p.m. Eastern on Roku Sports Channel in the U.S.